Hello friends, so let's continue the class. The Chola rulers also sent a number of embassies to China. These were partly diplomatic and partly commercial. Chola embassies reached China in 1016 and 1033. The Chola embassy of 70 merchants reached China in 1077 and according to a Chinese account received 81,800 strings of copper cash, that is more than 4 lakh rupees, in return for the articles of tribute comprising glassware, camphor, brocades, rhinoceros horns, ivory, etc. Tribute was the word used by the Chinese for all articles bought for trade. The Chola rulers fought constantly with the Chalukyas who had succeeded Rashtrakutas. These are called the later Chalukyas and their capital was Kalyani. So after Rashtrakutas, it was Chalukyas who came to succeeded Rashtrakutas, and Cholas were in continuous fight with Chalukyas, and these Chalukyas were called as after the Chalukyas who came after Rashtrakutas are known as later Chalukyas, and their capital was at Kalyani. The Cholas and the later Chalukyas clashed for the overlordship of Vengi Rayalaseema, the Tungabhadra Doab and Ganga ruled country in northwest Karnataka. Neither side was able to gain a decisive victory in this contest, and ultimately it exhausted both the kingdoms. It also appears that the wars were becoming harsher during this time. The Chola rulers asked and plundered Chalukya cities including Kalyani. Kalyani was capital of later Chalukyas, and massacred the people including Brahmins and children. They adopted a similar policy in the Pandya country, settling military colonies to overwhelm the population. They destroyed Anuradhapura, the ancient capital of the rulers of Sri Lanka, and treated their king and queen harshly. This all done by Chola. They are blows in the history of the Chola Empire. However, once they had conquered a country, the Cholas tried to set up a sound system of administration in it. One of the remarkable features of the Chola administration was their encouragement to a local self-government in the village all over their empire. So, Chola administration include the local self-government in the village. Chola administration feature of one of the most important or remarkable feature of Chola administration is that they encourage the local self-government in the villages. The Chola Empire continued to flourish during the 12th century, but it declined during the early part of 13th century. The later Chalukya Empire in the Maharashtra area had also come to the end during the 12th century. The place of the Cholas was taken by Pandyas and Hoysalas in the south. After Chola, it was Pandyas and Hoysalas, and the later Chalukyas were replaced by Yadavas and Kakatiyas. So, in place of Cholas, Pandyas and Hoysalas came, and after later Chalukyas, it was Yadavas and Kakatiyas. After Chola, Hoysalas and Pandyas. After later Chalukyas, it was Yadavas and Kakatiyas. All these states extended patronage to arts and horticulture. Unfortunately, they weakened themselves by continually fighting against each other, sacking the towns and not even sparing the temples. Ultimately, they were destroyed by the sultans of Delhi at the beginning of the 14th century. And now we will know about the Chola government or local self-government. The king was the most important person in the Chola administration. All authority rested in his hands, but he had a council of ministers to advise him. The king was the most important person, but he also had council of ministers who advised him. The kings often went on tours in order to oversee the administration. The Chola maintained a large army consisting of elephants, cavalry, and infantry, which were called the three limbs of the army: elephant, cavalry, and infantry. What? Elephant, cavalry, and infantry are called as three limbs of the army of Chola Empire. The infantry was generally armed with spears. Most of the kings had bodyguards who were sworn to defend the king even at the cost of their life. The Venetian traveler Marco Polo, who visited Kerala in the 13th century, says that all the soldiers who were bodyguard burned themselves in the funeral pyre of the monarch when he died, a statement which may well be exaggeration. The Chola also had a strong navy, as we have seen, which dominated the Malabar and Coromandel coast and for some time the entire Bay of Bengal. The Chola state included area of central control and loosely administered areas under different types of local control. The state was interspersed with hill people and tribal. The basic unit of administration was the Nadu, which consisted of number of villages having close kinship ties, other close associations. Nadu. The number of nadus increased as the fresh lands were brought under the cultivation by means of irrigation works such as ponds, wells, etc., and by converting hills or tribal people into agriculturists. Grants to Brahmans and temples increased, both of which helped in expanding cultivation. So, giving grants to Brahmanas and increasing the cultivable lands, these are all the features of their governance. In the Chola kingdom, Nadus were grouped into Valanadus. Nadus were grouped into Valanadus, and the Chola state was divided into four mandalams or provinces. So, Nadu was grouped as Valanadus. Nadu were grouped as Valanadus, and the Chola state was divided into four mandalams or provinces. Chola state was divided into four mandalams or provinces, and Nadu were grouped as Valanadus. Sometimes princes of royal family were appointed governors of provinces. Officials were generally paid by giving them assignments of revenue bearing lands. So payment is done by giving revenue bearing lands. Payment was done by giving revenue bearing lands. The Chola rulers built a network of royal roads which were useful for trade as well as for movement of the army. Trade and commerce flourished in the Chola Empire, and there was some gigantic trade guilds which traded with the Java and Sumatra. The Chola also paid attention to irrigation. The river Kaveri and other rivers were used for the purpose. Many tanks for irrigation were built. Some Chola rulers carried out a elaborate survey of land in order to fix the government share of land revenue. We do not know what precisely the government share was. So Cholas paid cultivation is included, irrigation is included, and they also concluded survey to know the government share of the land revenue. In addition to land tax, the Chola rulers drew their income from tolls on trade, taxes, professions, or also from the plunder of the neighboring territories. The Chola rulers were wealthy and could afford to build a number of towns and magnificent monuments including temples. One of the most famous temple is Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjore. We have already referred to local self-government in the villages in some areas in the Rashtrakuta Empire. We know more about village government in Chola Empire from a number of inscriptions. We hear of two assemblies called Ur and the Sabha or Mahasabha. Two assemblies, Ur and Sabha or Mahasabha. Ur and Sabha or Mahasabha. Thus Ur was general assembly of villages. However, we know more about the working of Mahasabhas. So Ur was a general assembly of villages. This was a gathering of adult men in Brahman village which were called Agraharams. These were villages with Brahman settlement in which most of the land was rent free. These villages enjoyed a large measure of autonomy. The affairs of the village were managed by the executive committee, to which educated persons owning property were elected either by drawing lots or by rotation. These members had to retire every 3 years. There were other committees for helping in the assessment and collection of land revenue, for maintenance of law and order and justice, etc. One of the important committees was the tank committee, which looked after the distribution of water to the fields. The Mahasabha could distribute new lands, exercise ownership rights over them. It could also raise loans for the village and levy taxes. The self-government enjoyed by these Chola villages was very fine system. To some extent, this system worked in the other villages as well. However, the growth of feudalism, which is discussed in the earlier chapter, restricted their autonomy. So these are all the features of Chola government. So important committee is tank committee, which is looked after for distributing water to the field, and Ur and Mahasabha, very important. Ur and Mahasabha were very important assemblies. Mahasabha is for Ur is for village assembly, and Mahasabha is for Brahman village assembly. And the land included in these assemblies is basically rent free. And the committees include educated persons. These members were elected for 3 years. So this is all for today's class. If you like this session, then please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.